Hello, I'm Hendren with Rio Grande, and in this video, we're going to talk about U-Namel. If you want to know what we can do with U-Namel, let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do before you apply the U-Namel is you want to clean all of the metal surfaces that you're going to apply the U-Namel to. In addition to cleaning them, you want to create a texture on the surface. That way the U-Namel has something to hang on to. So you want to create a bit of a tooth. What I'm doing here is I'm using a burr to clean away the fire scale and everything, while at the same time creating that textured surface that the U-Namel is going to attach itself to. You want to make sure that you do that to all of the edges that the U-Namel is going to touch. So right here you can see that I'm covering a lot of area with a rather big burr. Later on I'll come in with a smaller burr and get all those corners. Now before you apply any of the U-Namel, you want to make sure that all of your polishing is done. So that includes the exterior surfaces of the item that you're going to be applying the U-Namel to. The reason for this is that way you don't have to do as much cleanup afterwards and potentially risk damaging your U-Namel surface. Here I'm going back in with a finer burr and getting all those corners cleaned out. Everywhere the U-Namel is going to touch, I want to make sure that I've cleaned it, and I want to make sure that I've created a texture for it to adhere itself to. So the next thing you're going to do after you've got all your polishing done and your texturing done is you're going to want to clean everything, especially the areas where the U-Namel is going to touch, with alcohol. So I get in there with a Q-tip and make sure that I initially clean all the nooks and crannies out. These earrings here you can see have very small areas, and you want to get in there with the alcohol and get anything out that could potentially create a barrier between the U-Namel and the metal surface. Now the U-Namel can be applied with a brush, but in this video what you're seeing me do is I'm putting it into the surface and then I'm using a spatula to spread it around. It's important that you read each color. You can put it on in different thicknesses. You don't want to put it on too thick or it takes much longer to cure, and in some instances it won't cure. So what you're seeing here is I put the U-Namel in the space and I'm using the spatula to spread it around. And between each layer I will put it into the curing chamber and use the ultraviolet light to cure it. That cures it and hardens it. So you can see that I've filled in the eye, and I'm using a very fine paintbrush to spread the U-Namel around and fill in the surface area. I'm going to do the same thing in the end of the nose here. The important thing is that you get the U-Namel into the recessed area. Once it's cured, it's going to be hardened, but we'll come back later on and we'll level those areas off. So here you can see I'm adding U-Namel of a different color on top of a pre-existing one. So I've already cured the U-Namel, and now I can add another layer. Depending on what the color is, you can use different thicknesses. So I'm adding it where I want to. What it's going to do is it's going to give you an entirely different look when we're finished. It really is like painting on metal. You can see here I'm adding some red. It's going to turn that blue to more of a purple. You can see here how I'm spreading the paint out with this very fine paintbrush and essentially creating an entirely new custom color. Once I'm done, I cure it in the curing chamber, and then I can go back and add more color. So I just keep building it up and building it up until I reach the color and the level that I want the U-Namel to be at. We've really built up a lot of color and really created a good look. Now what I'm going to do here in this video is you're going to see me leveling off the U-Namel. So I built the U-Namel up so it was above the metal. And the good thing about U-Namel is you can go in there and you can grind it down, you can sand it down, and through a process of reducing the scratches, you can bring it back to that fine polish. So I'm using a rather coarse wheel here to remove the built-up material. And what it does is it exposes all those different layers, and in the final product you're going to see how amazing those colors come through. It creates almost an opal look. So I'm using a finer sanding disc in this to show how I'm bringing it down. I'm beginning to start polishing the U-Namel using finer grits. That's one thing that's really cool about U-Namel is you can bring it back to that polished luster. It's important to remember that what you're doing with every sequence of sanding is you're reducing the scratches. You're making them less and less. Here what I'm doing is I'm coming back with my Fordham, and I have a polishing cloth that I use to polish it, and now I'm using some bristle discs to not only do the final polish on the U-Namel, but can also eliminate any scratches I may have from the sanding process that are on the metal as well. So here are some examples of the finished pieces. You can see how magnificent the U-Namel looks. It really gives the piece a lot of life. The color is very good. It's very durable, and it will last for a long time. This is a fantastic way to add color to your jewelry if that's what you want to do. I hope the information in this video has been helpful. I hope you know a lot more about U-Namel, but if you have any additional questions about U-Namel or anything else, please contact us.